Welcome everybody back to the segment that we're calling constitutional considerations. Uh, Obviously, we're on tactical review right now, but I want to once again welcome Elias Ward of the Liberty Review podcast. Elias, welcome back.
Hey, glad to be back.
So, obviously, we had Thanksgiving since the last time we had a live stream. Do you have a good holiday?
Did, yeah, my mom came down from northern Indiana, and then my wife's sister and her kids came. So we kind of hosted Thanksgiving for the first time and fried up a turkey for the first time, and overall it was pretty good. How about yours?
It went really well. Now, obviously didn't burn down the house with the fried turkey. Did it turn out the way you hoped?
It did. It actually turned out really, really well.
Awesome.
I don't know if it was just the frying or the fact that I put a lot of butter inside of it.
Well, both of
Either
those,
way, it came out good.
Both of those are a great thing for a turkey.
Yeah.
Anything irresponsible with the Black Friday sales?
No, we went to Cabela's to go get some stuff for the kids while we had a temporary babysitter. And then about the only thing I picked up is I went and picked up a gun safe from Menards.
Oh.
So they had a really good deal on a 30 gun safe. And I had to go through to 3 Menards to finally find one because they were selling out of them everywhere. So got it all down here and sleeping a little bit better knowing that everything's locked up now.
Awesome. Actually, we're going to come back to keeping things locked up here in just a minute. I may have spent an irresponsible amount with the Olight Black Friday sales. So flashlight reviews coming up or comparisons. So that'll be a fun show. But that's not really what this segment's about. So one last thing. Speaking of holiday type sales. Something I found today, I got it on my email. Actually, I already shared this with Elias. Is that AR-500 Armor is running a discount, and I just wanted to call it out because I was really impressed that their promo code is Christ is King, and I think that's awesome. And that'll get you 25% off and free shipping site-wide, I think it was. So I don't have anything from AR-500, but it really spoke to me that that's what they use for their promo code, and I just think it's awesome. Just remembering the reason for the season. I see Beretta Man has joined us in the chat, and 2A is doing the best he can to listen, but he can't chat right now. He's out salting, so sounds like our friends up in Michigan are getting some weather. Speaking of Michigan, there's a lawsuit going on against, boy, you'd think I'd have the city name already down. I had it earlier. And do you have that handy, Elias?
No, let me pull it up real quick because I know which one you're talking about.
Well, while you're pulling that up, I'm going to bump back to last week's live stream just for a second. So I'll let you get a hold of that. But Michigan friends, we actually have news from your home state, so we'll go right back to that. I want to, though, real quick, just revisit the state of Virginia. Last week we showed you this map of the counties that were working on becoming 2A sanctuary counties, and the ones that have become, those are the ones in green. And I double-checked today, and as of yesterday, this is the current map. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully they can get the legislators to understand that they are not interested in these gun control measures that the Democrats are trying to push through. And in this case, yes, I know that there are pro-2A Democrat individuals out there. I don't think there's a lot of pro-2A Democrat politicians. And I can definitely say that the folks down in Virginia, the representatives in Virginia, don't seem to be representing their state. So, anything to add to that before we move on?
No, it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. I mean, I find it kind of ironic. I was reading through, when we were talking about last week's show, was reading through some of the Anti-Federalist papers and came across the Virginia Convention when it came time to ratify the Constitution. And the delegates in Virginia actually felt that the language was not strong enough in the Constitution for the Second Amendment. They actually wanted it stronger, and what they wanted actually ended up in the Virginia Constitution, which explicitly said every individual every individual has the right to have a firearm. Period. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. I don't think they're going to make it very far because I'm also curious to see what their own courts are going to say when if any of those laws were to get passed. So.
Well, doesn't the Virginia Constitution also specifically call out militias? Like, it specifically says something about, no, we need militias, not a standing army. Standing armies are dangerous. We need a militia. I think that was how it was worded.
Yeah, that was pretty much, and that was their concern, was that a standing army, the job of a standing army was going to be to enforce the government's wishes, which is what they had just come from. So they actually wrote into their constitution, and this is what they wanted in the U.S. Constitution, was that the right of the people to keep and bear arms will not be infringed, and that standing armies should not exist in time of peace because they were considered a danger to liberty.
I can agree with that. Talking to some of our military men and women, I think one of the few things that's possibly stands between that is that we have, as we mentioned last week, so many men and women who understand that their duty is to the Constitution, their oath is to the Constitution. Anyway,
No.
So good job, Virginia. Keep fighting the good fight down there. And once again, I am sorry that I ever doubted you good folks and even thought that turning tail was the right answer. Way to stand and fight. Way to stand and fight with a peaceful revolution is what you're going for now. Proud of that. Did you happen to find that link from? Now we'll move up to the north and go to Michigan.
Yeah, it was East Point.
East Point,
Michigan. Yep, East Point, Michigan.
And so they have passed a law that there it is. Just good grief, took me way too long to find that. They've got a law that basically says that if you have your firearm stored in your vehicle unsecured, that the firearm can be taken from you and that you can be fined, I think it was $500.
Yeah.
just know that's all you got on that.
Yeah. It's an interesting law because Michigan has a preemption law. And the preemption law says that you cannot that municipalities and such cannot regulate transportation except for a very limited scope. And I don't remember what the scope was. It was the next section in that paragraph. But I do know that this was definitely not it. It had more to do with, like, I think, city employees and things like that. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens on the state level because I don't think it'll go past the state level because of the fact that it is a state law it's a city law, and the lawsuit is that it is violating the state law. So I would imagine it gets tossed back very quickly because of that preemption.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what exactly they were thinking in East Point.
I think that their concept is that criminals could see a firearm in a vehicle, they're going to be more likely to break in and then have a free firearm with which to... I don't know. Look, guys...
Yeah, but you know what? My wife could leave her purse in the car. And, okay, right. My wife, she sometimes does. Usually it's here at the house. But she could leave it unlocked. Is that the next thing? Or are we going to say that other things also can't be locked into the vehicle? I get what they're saying, but I think it just kind of falls flat.
Yeah, look, I mean, guys, gals, don't leave a firearm in plain sight in your car. I feel like that falls under the realm of common sense. As a matter of fact, if I have to leave a firearm in the vehicle, I either try to use I've got one of those little clamshell travel safes with the cable lock, and I cable it to something in the vehicle. In my car or in the minivan, we have a couple of lockable glove boxes. I hate disarming. Elias and I had a long conversation earlier about, the moral law versus legal law of maintaining an armed status even in a gun-free zone, and
Yeah.
what that could mean for work. And in my case, I work at a school, and so I would be risking a state felony versus just termination, and that's all another discussion. But yeah, to me, it is common sense. You don't just leave a firearm out in plain sight. But I wouldn't leave a laptop in plain sight in a car either. And this is, I don't know. I feel like it goes to the government's trying too hard to protect us from ourselves.
They're trying to legislate common sense, and you can't do it.
Can't legislate morality.
You really can't do it. Yeah, you can't legislate morality. You're not able to legislate common sense either. And while I think it's one of those things of their mind is in the right place, they definitely went about it the wrong way.
So we're kind of starting with that. Number one, I know that we have it's our neighbors to the north. We have some viewers from Michigan, and so wanted to kind of make sure you guys were aware of that. And to me, that's kind of a good news situation that we've got, a lawsuit being brought against unconstitutional laws, and that's a good thing. So now then, less than good news. I don't know, maybe it's not, because the guy, I think he's just going too far left, much like Beto O'Rourke did. But Michael Bloomberg and some of the social media comments that he has been making lately. Let's see, one of my favorites is there are times where the government needs to infringe your rights, I think is what he said. Yeah. I've just had one of those days. I've barely remembered my own name today, so I apologize. I meant to be a lot more prepared for this than I am. But Elias, you said you've done some digging into.
Yeah, I was focusing on some of his stuff, and like he had an article, or he had something on Twitter the other day talking about the NRA's latest effort. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so the NRA's latest effort to undermine public safety may be its most absurd yet, and its most dangerous. The Supreme Court must side with the millions of Americans fighting for gun safety instead for NRA packing. Those are some great talking points to hook you in. If you go read the article, it is a op-ed or a commentary rather that he wrote in the Chicago Tribune. I started kind of glancing at it, and it had to do with the New York case where the New York City had a law that said you could not transport a gun outside of city limits to go to a range. I don't even know where to start with that in the first place, of how to tell somebody they can't take a weapon outside of their jurisdiction, but we'll skim over that right now for the moment. The law gets repealed right as it gets to the Supreme Court. Obviously, it's being challenged. They repeal the law. He writes in there, this law should have been repealed. It's a good thing we got rid of this ordinance, all that. He goes, but the NRA is not going to stop. And what he writes in there is he writes that the NRA is going to keep fighting because they don't believe that states should be allowed to issue permits. In other words, his argument is that the NRA doesn't want permitting any at all. They just want a free-for-all constitutional carry across the board, which, while I think that's a great idea, it is absolutely not the case with NRA.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly the biggest NRA fan, but that is a straight-up lie from Bloomberg. The NRA has said repeatedly that they are perfectly fine with shall issue permits. They have no issue. In fact, they had to write a huge article. NRA-ILA, which is the legislative arm of the NRA, actually wrote a huge article about 2 years ago, talking about the fact that they are not against permitting. So this is complete crap coming from Bloomberg. This whole article, as I read through it some more, I'm like, that has nothing to do with it. They want the case to be heard because they want to be able to set the precedent right there at the high court to say you can't do stuff like this. And I think it's telling that even New York State slammed the city for it. New York State came out with a law saying that no municipality would ever be allowed to make that kind of law again. So Bloomberg is just, I'm not really sure what he's trying to do at this point. He came in very late to the race, relatively, and I don't see him. The DNC's kind of already decided who they want, so I'm not really sure what Bloomberg's angle is.
I I wonder, the conspiracy theorist in me, is he there to be the next guy representing the extreme DNC position, the true? I believe at a national level. Again, if you identify as a Democrat, I'm not necessarily saying you personally, uh, but the party, I really believe that they are very completely anti-gun, 100%. I don't necessarily disagree with Colion Noor today on his. I saw it on Instagram. Maybe it was yesterday. Anyway, he made the comment that most Republicans are only pro-gun because they know that they can't be an anti-gun Republican and get an election. So I basically at the big league level, all politicians tend to be anti-gun because they're so out of touch. They don't understand.
Yeah.
It's like it's very easy in my mind for a lot of these Hollywood celebrities and stuff to be anti-gun because they have the money for armed security forces. They've high-end security systems in their houses, etc., 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 and they don't understand this concept of I'm responsible for my family, myself.
Right.
I want to take that, and it's not just I can't afford armed security, so I want that responsibility. I don't want to rely on the state, on the government to secure my family. So anyway, I kind of got off on a tangent there.
No, and to kind of follow up on that tangent, I mean, I kind of agree with the idea that at that level they're all anti-gun, and the reason I say that though kind of digs a little bit more deeper, I think, into the conspiracy sphere, and that is the fact that I see Republicans and Democrats two sides of the same coin now. And what both sides are is complete control, governmental control. They just want to control different aspects. The way you control the people is by disarming, period.
Oh, absolutely.
The Republicans just haven't figured out how to do it publicly yet. But I would not be surprised if in the next generation, like the generation after us, somewhere in their timeline, that the Republicans start moving more towards a gun control position, because that's kind of the end goal. When you want government to control everything, you disarm the citizens.
Absolutely.
And I think Republicans are going to head that way, but they're just going about it a more roundabout way. But yeah, I see them both as different sides of the same coin.
Yeah, and now that you brought me back to my first point, and that's exactly what I was going to say, is they're out of touch, and at the political level, it's that desire for power. There's an old saying.
Yeah.
There's an old saying that those who deserve power don't want it, and those who want power don't deserve it. And I think we keep seeing that over and over and over again.
And this is the thing that the framers were worried about. If you ever read the Anti-Federalist Papers, I don't know if you have or any of our people viewing have read it. Read it. It's very good. You hear a lot about the Federalist Papers. What you don't hear a lot about is the Anti-Federalist Papers. The Anti-Federalist Papers were terrified of the federal government. They were afraid that the Constitution was giving the government too much power. And while people like Madison had some good arguments going back against them, and those are written in the Federalist Papers, I think reading the Anti-Federalist Papers is a really good way to kind of get into the mindset of what was happening at the time of the conventions. Because there was a real concern that this is exactly what was going to happen. The government was going to go ahead and get like this, because I think it was Jefferson who kind of saw it as, this is just how it's going to happen. Governments are going to get corrupt over time.
Yeah.
Which is the whole reason why representatives is one of the reasons why representatives were limited to only 2 years. They weren't supposed to stay in power. The idea was a mini revolution, as we talked about before, every couple of years, so that you can't let them get corrupt. And we kind of lost that relatively quickly, actually, through history. But the fact of the matter is, yes, this was the concern. And so, yeah, if any of you have not read it, read the Anti-Federalist Papers, because it really gives some good insight into what was happening at the conventions and what these people from the states were concerned about.
Yeah, and we have so many people And I've only read excerpts of the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist papers, and so it looks like I've got homework. But even at that, it doesn't take a lot, I don't feel like, to start grasping the mind of the founding fathers. And not to say that they were perfect on everything, but they knew what they had in mind for the government. And then you talk to people now, and once again, a couple weeks ago, I don't remember, I put something out on social media as like, some of you guys never read Animal Farm and 1984, and it shows. And
where is it? Here.
And
there's my copy right behind me.
Well, the sad thing is I'm also afraid that some people did read those and were reading them as an instruction manual. But no, it always goes that way. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Inside each of us is, there's the story of the two wolves and all of that. Elias and I were speaking on, Americans First. We need term limits.
Good luck getting the ones in there to actually do it, however, there is a back way of doing it that was written into the Constitution, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, because to get term limits, we would have to convince Congress to vote term limits for themselves, to do it the regular way, and that's like the whole thing of them voting themselves raises. That bothers me. And anyway, what I was saying though is that if we're all honest with ourselves, we have this broken, corrupted nature. And I'm not trying to say that you, dear viewer, are a bad person, but if you're going to be honest with yourself, you can see those tendencies towards self-centeredness, and whether it's because you're a religious person or whether you just strive to be good in society, we have to overcome that. The problem is that the more you have, the harder it is to overcome that, and then the more you want. Which, once again, we're right back to power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, anyway, I'm interested. I didn't realize that we had a backdoor way to enact term limits.
Yes, kind of. I'm trying to see. Here it is. I was trying to search on the internet, but you know what? Sometimes it's just faster to pull it up. And by the way, this Eliot book is really good. The Heritage Guide to the Constitution. It is written from a more libertarian mindset. Okay, I should say from a libertarian. It is from a libertarian mindset. But what it actually does is it takes every single clause in every single article and every single amendment and breaks it down. It talks about case law, talks about what was happening when it was enacted, things like that. It's a really great book.
Okay, cool.
But, let me see if I remember right. I believe it's Article 5? Yeah, here you go. So Congress, when 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments, or on the application of the legislatures of the 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention. So, and then at that point, I believe it just requires the 3/4 of the states then. So essentially, what happens is you can call a constitutional convention, like what happened in 1776.
Right.
Get 2/3 of the states could propose this amendment, and then at that point, it just takes 3/4 of the states to vote for it, and you cut Congress right out of it.
Perfect.
It's never been used. It has never been used in any of the amendments that we have, but it is there. It is written right into it that if you got 2/3 of the state legislatures to call a convention, at that point, they can propose the amendment, and then it goes to 3/4 of the states. Now, you still have to get 75% of the country to agree to it, but it is there.
Well,
and at least at that point, now you have traction.
Here's the thing, is that constantly, both sides of the aisle, people that I agree with wholeheartedly on most of their political views, and people that every time they have a political post on Facebook, I want to bash my head against the wall. We all are agreeing that Congress is severely busted because it's all special interests. It's all, dynasties now. It's all, once again, we have allowed our country to become an oligarchy. rule by the select
Yep.
few, and those select few are Congress. And you can look at the things that they do, and you can look at the things that they say, and you can tell they believe that they're above the law. Well, just go back. Let's go back to, and I don't want to dive into this too much, but the Affordable Care Act.
Oh yeah.
You know, it applied to everybody besides Congress. And that's how I knew it wasn't this great thing that it was being sold as, because if it was that great, Congress would have been like, yeah, we want that too. And I did a lot more research on that than I ever thought I would for a series of papers I was doing for some college classes. And I went into it when I first started, I was like, you know what, maybe I'm just being very partisan here. Maybe, I need to approach this with an open mind, because I have a tendency to do that. I think we all do that. Confirmation bias, the tinted glasses. Anyway. So I went into it. I was like, maybe this is really a great thing. Maybe it is. And the more I dug into it, it had, I don't think it was such a great thing. Number one, once again, we were folding something else under government control. There's no reason for healthcare to be nationalized in any form or format, even just requiring insurance. That's a personal decision. But number two, it had so many side effects and I think they were unintentional. And I know this is old news now, but things like lowering the definition of full-time to 29 hours. I firmly believe that the intentions behind that were good, that, hey, this makes more people full-time, without taking into consideration that greedy corporations, who are not people, as has been mentioned, greedy corporations would just simply cut part-timers to 28 and a half hours, and, oh, you needed that extra 6 hours of money a week? Too bad. So, yes, 2A's over here quoting scripture, and I like it. It is easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Yep. Yeah, and I want to be a generous person, but when I have extra, even me myself, I'm like, man, I'd really like this or that or the other thing or whatever. And then you guys out there, you guys need me to keep buying stuff for the channel. So. Anyway. Boy, we are following rabbit trails. Here's that half-hour mark that I said that I thought we wanted to be done by, Elias. Look at that. You called that. Okay.
Yeah, I told you it wasn't going to
I
happen.
that. I like the sound of my voice. I don't really, but I act like I do. Okay. What's next on the docket? I have lost my outline. And I didn't send you an outline.
I don't know. You had the outline. You never sent it to me.
Let's see. So we've talked about Bloomberg, and anybody who watches this, remember, no matter how crazy. I never finished that thought. Dear Lord. What if Bloomberg is this next far left guy to make? What you think? Probably Biden's going to get the nod.
Right.
And what if?
It's either going to be Biden or Warren. I think the DNC is losing its love for Biden. I think it's going to be Warren.
So one way or the other, this could be another like Beto O'Rourke, where we've got somebody who's just going to polarize the entire nation, that then makes the person who finally gets the nomination seem reasonable. They're just reasonable measures. It's just common sense measures.
Oh, yeah.
Once again, you can't legislate common sense. So if a politician is talking about common sense, number one, they don't have any. And number two, if they're trying to legislate that, you need to axe that right there, because you can't legislate common sense. You can't legislate morality.
It's all.
That's it.
And it's all about control. Is what it ultimately comes down to. Government control.
And the more control the government has, that puts us into Eventually, it's a socialist. I mean, well, either communism or monarchy. Once the government has full control, really, you've got those two extremes. I've got a very narrow window here to gesture in. You've got those two extremes, and it's going to go one way or the other. So, and that's what we need to stand against. Obviously, here.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's something you've been able to see unfold over the last few decades. It's all about control, and it started with minorities, and now it's getting to the majority population.
So, anyway, okay, revisited and finalized what we were saying about Bloomberg, and we talked about that New York wall that's getting shot down. There was something else in here, and I could scroll back through our conversation in chat and see what it was, but we've talked so much in the last 2 days that I don't know if I can find it. One thing though, and I actually have a resolution, or had a resolution number on that. So I don't know if you guys have seen. I'm going to try to keep talking and look this up, which requires me to do two things at once, which is a struggle for me. So yesterday I saw that Gun Owners of America is co-sponsoring a bill that will deregulate short barrel rifles and also destroy the SBR registry from the ATF. And
oh, right.
and
yes.
so, but I saw today, what I'm looking for today is I actually have a bill number on this. And so just to give you guys something to reach out to your representatives and say, hey, I want support on this. And of course I can't find it now that I know it's starting in the House, and which is potentially problematic for the bill by virtue of the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, the House is currently blue.
Yeah, correct. Democrats.
That's what I was thinking. Right, so it's going to be a hard-fought battle.
So the chances of this getting out of committee are kind of low. I wouldn't say impossible, but kind of low. Unless the Republicans can somehow write some things into it. Here we go, 52.
That sounds right. Sounds like it's starting with 52 is right.
5289.
That sounds...
5289.
Yes.
Wrong Congress. Here we go. 5289 to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to remove short barrel rifles from the definitions of firearms. Let me see where it's sitting at. It was introduced in the House yesterday.
Right.
So
and
it's going to get, most likely it'll get kicked over to the, here it is, referred to Committee on Ways and Means, as well as the Committee on the Judiciary.
So.
And I don't remember who running that.
You know, those opposed are going to say short barrel rifles are too easy to conceal, and honestly, what they're going to push for is rifle format pistols, such as an AR pistol, to do away with that loophole is what they're going to call it. So that's what their fight's going to be. I said it on social media, and I'm not hoping for this, but I'm afraid that there will be an incident that will prove them right, that these need to continue being regulated items if it starts making traction. And I hate that, and I hate that I even think that way now, but it seems like there's some truth in it.
And I wouldn't be surprised either. Unfortunately, we don't have text on it yet, so I can't actually read it, but
so
It's too new. They haven't uploaded the
So you
text
said
yet.
though that that is 5289 is the number on that.
Yeah,
So
5289.
guys and gals, maybe reach out to your representatives and tell them that you want to support. You would like to see some support for this bill, and I'm sure Gun Owners of America on Gun Owners of America will have some stuff going with that because they number one they are one of the co-sponsors of this bill, and number two, make sure visit, even if you're not a member of Gun Owners of America, if you visit their website and Firearm Policy Coalition, they have political action items. It makes it a little easier to stay up to date on firearms based legislation, and they have form letters and stuff. It makes it, it's not as effective as picking up the phone. But
just a quick little nit to pick real quick. They wouldn't have co-sponsored it. They lobbied for it, not co-sponsors. So you have to actually be a congressman to co-sponsor.
Gotcha. Thank you, and that's why you're here. You're the smart one, and I'm not the pretty one. Well,
I wouldn't say that. I'm just the nerd one who reads too many things about laws and political process.
I'm the one who sees these headlines and reads these little quick news stories and kicks them over to you and say, hey, wait a minute, what about this? Americans First, thoughts on the Virginia gun ban. Actually, I don't know if, were you here when we put up the 2A sanctuaries, the Virginia?
I don't
Okay.
No, because that was right.
Yeah, that was really early on. Americans First. I'm going to put an infographic back up for you, and this is as of yesterday, 12/4/2019. The green state or the green counties in Virginia have passed resolutions to become Second Amendment sanctuaries. The orange and yellow are working on it. The red have no interest. I will let you guess where how the red voted in the last election. So anyway, so that I realize doesn't speak directly to the ban. I don't know how that's going to go. That is directly contrary to the Virginia state constitution. We won't fully rehash that. Once the stream's over, if you go back, I think we covered that in the first 5 or 10 minutes. So you can just click through and look for that infographic again. Anyway, all of these anti-gun all the anti-gun legislation that the Democrats are trying to push through in Virginia is like 3,000%. Actually, its unconstitutional level is over 9,000. There, a little bit of internet keep for you.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and watch, you'll see we kind of talk about the irony of Virginia doing something.
And that
like
goes
this.
back to even last week. We talked about the bill that was introduced last Wednesday, where they were trying to make paramilitary style training illegal for civil unrest. It's weirdly worded, and really they can use it to say that you're not allowed to go train with your firearm at all. And and that completely flies against the way that the Virginia state wording of what the United States has as a Second Amendment. So it's very strongly worded. I don't know how any of this stuff, how they think any of it's going to fly. Even the suppressor bans and things like that. Really, I think a Virginia state Second Amendment advocacy group, I think that they could have lawsuits for days, and the Virginia legislator will have to amend the Virginia Constitution to really make any of this stick. That said, I think that it could really cause headaches for people who live in those red zones on that map who don't have an opportunity to move while this is all being hashed out. So anyway, so revisiting that, we've talked about the short barrel rifle thing, and guys, there's so much to go into that. There's so many good resources that I run an AR pistol for my home defense gun. There's a lot of reasons for it. Believe it or not, it's actually less likely to deal with overpenetration. And there's a tactical rifleman has a really good video about best home defense load, and they do some gel testing and stuff. And so we're not going to rehash all that anyway. But 4 points of contact, it's just easier to control a rifle style platform, whether it's a pistol or whatever. But obviously a shorter than 16-inch barrel is a lot easier to drive inside and around structures. There's a reason that our guys in the forces run, they run like 12.5-inch barrels. I mean, it's just, it gets you a good bit of powder burn off of a 5.56, but it's easier to drive in and around structures. So it's a good thing. As a matter of fact, I think that bill that we were talking about the short barrel rifles is called like the Competitive Shooters and Home Defense Bill or something like that. So anyway, yeah, make sure you're reaching out to your representatives and supporting that. Gosh, I know there's something else huge that we were going to talk about that's come down the pipe lately. Missouri has some crazy stuff on the books. I saw Rob Ski at AK Operators Union post. Of course, he moved to Missouri to get to a more gun-friendly state than Illinois, which is where he was living. And now, yeah, the St. Louis and there's one more big city that's always anti-gun. Anyway, city representatives from 2 cities have convinced the governor that they need all these gun control bills. And so if you happen to be watching and you're in Missouri and you haven't heard that, to get more detail, Facebook or Instagram, or I don't know if AK Operators Union is anywhere else, but Rob posted some links to that. Look into that. I wish I had more information for you right now. Truth is that Elias and I I think I hit him up yesterday and said, there's been some crazy stuff. You want to do a live stream tomorrow?
Yeah, pretty much. You're like, hey, let's do one tomorrow.
Yeah,
I was like, okay.
So FYI, this isn't something that either of us are planning on being a weekly thing necessarily. I'd like it to be, fairly common. I enjoy it. But the frequency is kind of going to be dictated by schedules and the insanity that we see in the news. So,
I was gonna say. I would say that it's going to be it's meant to be a collaborative effort where we're going to bring talking about politics together. We're talking about firearms, and so it's really going to be driven by what's going on with the government and
absolutely.
Firearms. So, if it's a quiet time, there won't be much to talk about. If you've got some really crazy things going on, like Bloomberg and Virginia, then
yeah, absolutely. And feel free to sound out either in the chat or in the comments if you want to see a little bit more politically motivated content. I really kind of want to focus on keeping it here in constitutional considerations, just because I've said it before. I'm not necessarily looking for a super political channel. That said, our ability to purchase and review and whatever firearms, firearm accessories, knives, whatever, tactical stuff that we want to look at, well, that's all determined by a freely available and constitutionally observed Second Amendment. So there will be times just my very content gets political, kind of like just posting a picture of the federal ammunition that I purchased last week got me a strike on Instagram because owning bullets equals selling bullets, I guess. Anyhow, so but if you guys really don't like the political content, comment and let me know, and we'll do another outlet for it. If you guys really like this, we'll see about doing some more of it. But for political content, Elias obviously is setting up. He's still in the setup process of the Liberty Review podcast. Why don't you get us up to date on that?
Mm-hmm. So pilot's done. I sent over to Blair. He's good with it right now. I'm just doing some audio, putting in some intro music, some things like that, getting it cleaned up. My hope is maybe Friday to release it. I don't know if I'll do it Friday or if I'll wait till Monday at the beginning of the work week. Not sure which one is better to try to release it on, but either Friday or Monday. It's just be a pilot. It's a very short 12, 13-minute introduction, but what my hope is about 2 weeks from whenever I do kick that one out is when the actual first episode will come out, which will be a little bit longer, where I'll actually start diving into some of the things going on right now. And the title of that episode, I'm not going to give it away yet.
Nice
I'll name
teaser.
it. You'll hear the name when it comes out.
Right now...
But it's a good setup for a description for what the show is going to be.
Now, right now, do you have any kind of social media presence or anything set up for Liberty Review?
Technically, I created a page on Facebook. I figured out how to do that.
Okay. Do you know what you're at?
Once we get the logo all done and stuff like that, then I think I can actually create a page. What's it going to be? Let me see if I can figure out how to do that. I don't really know that stuff in Facebook. I'm not Facebook savvy. I don't know if I'm too old for it or just don't care enough about it.
That could be. I'll tell you, the only reason I got into social media, back into, I mean, I've always, I check Facebook on occasion to see what my family's up to or whatever, but it was literally because of Tactical Review, and that's actually where I'm most active. If you were to go to my personal Facebook page, I think I've probably got 1 or 2 posts in the last 6 months where I post almost daily on Tactical Review. So speaking of which, up on the screen right now, at Tactical Review 2019, it will lead you straight to me on both Instagram and Facebook. And if you follow my social media, I'm absolutely going to be shouting out and linking Liberty Review once that's all set up. And if Elias finds that at on Facebook, I'll throw that in real quick too. So.
Okay. I did it really quick. At Liberty Review 1776.
Hey, I like it. At Liberty Review 1776.
So.
At Liberty.
At 1776. And I'll probably talk to you about the other things that I might need to create. I don't know where the kids go these days.
The only reason I created an Instagram is because one of my student viewers, and if any of you guys are watching this, thanks for joining. And it's also almost 10 o'clock. You need to be finishing up your homework. Tomorrow's school. Anyway. But that's why I set up Instagram, and
challenge your government teachers. Make them actually teach you.
Absolutely. I've got to say though, at our school, it's still a small school. Obviously, we teach state standards, but there's still a lot. It's almost more of a civics class. I've talked to our junior high and our high school social studies teachers, and they're very constitutionally minded, and it's really awesome. It's refreshing.
Good.
And once again, there's young people who come out of the school where I work that understand something of constitutional obligations and constitutional opportunities. So
good.
All right. Well, I think, sir, you have anything else for our viewers? Is there anything that you know that I've missed?
Not that I can think of. I found where we were talking about it, and we hit all the points you wanted to talk about. So all the big things that are going on, I think.
Awesome. Like I said, scatterbrained today. Hey, there's Petey, one of the students. Glad you could join, Pete. I knew you weren't sure if you'd be able to. It's actually Petey's the one who told me to set up the Instagram. So, yeah, huge supporters.
Okay.
It's awesome how much support a lot of the other staff members in the student body have given me in the endeavor of Tactical Review. So,
good.
Yeah, it's been great.
That's good to hear.
It has been great because I know I joke about, oops, another staff member found out about Tactical Review. Now I'm going to be reported and fired. But I know that there's some some staff members at schools would actually have to be concerned about their First Amendment being trampled while they talk about their Second Amendment. So, yeah, if you guys are in the trenches behind enemy lines, our hearts go out to you. Keep fighting the good fight. So, all right. Well, I don't have a snazzy wrap up, so keep your eyes peeled then end of the week, beginning of next week for Tactical Reviews Liberty Reviews pilot episode. Obviously, beginning of next week, I will be dropping a new tactical review video, but that's completely separate. So, guys, gals, whoever else joins, thanks so much for watching. And until next time, shoot straight, stay safe.